Welcome back to the Knife Life. We're sitting down with Greg Wegrezycki, also known as Karambit Maker. So, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So, for the people who don't know you yet, can you give us a little bit of a background on how you got into knives and what you currently do in your shop?
Okay, so I was in the knife making stuff for like almost 10 years. But started making the karambits, that was like maybe 5-6 years ago when I started, that thinking very seriously takes that. And that probably is one of my best kind of, the work, what I do, karambits. I'm not big maker for straight blades, bushcraft knives, something like that. So I keep the focus on the karambits, which does make me a lot of pleasure to make them. And everything just comes out from my interest in the martial arts backgrounds like FMA, Silat, and my early days, I trained Chinese Kung Fu, but always I keep the focus on blades. So then I start looking for some of the guys from like FMA and Silat. Since I met them, I spot on the first time like karambit, and then I knew it, this is what I wanna train and this is what I wanna do. But back then, I wasn't have too much of the knowledge about, the karambit, what is, how supposed to make them. So I just start looking for the makers who already made them. But again, I didn't find too many of them. There was like Ernie Emerson, Richard Derespina, Streeter, Warren Thomas. But like for me, that was very hard to reach them. So I started, take some seminars with FMA and Silat guys, and a lot of them had very limited knowledge about the karambits, or they say it's kind of like very traditional, high level, the weapon, so we can teach you in the next 5-10 years. So I didn't want to spend that time just waiting for show me something interesting in the knives with the karambits. So then I don't remember exactly when and where I find out the guy, Jack Ottman, is probably one of the best right now, the sources for Silat weapon. That guy, he's from Malaysia, he came every year to the States for seminar tours. And I met him first time maybe 5 years ago. And since the first seminar, what I attend with him, that opened my eyes for karambit. So since that, I keep the focus, grinding, designing, try, find the best source, what karambit is, how I can use it. And at that point, I think I'm pretty comfortable to take, the piece of the paper and pencil and draw the karambit, in my opinion, that will be works best in kind of situation when supposed to be karambit designed. There's someone who see my work, they see that my karambits are with a pretty small, nice carved, the blade, with the short blades. And I had, lots of feedbacks from the FMA community when they told me like, Greg, your job, your karambits is exactly how the karambit is supposed to look. So at that point, I wanna stay with the small karambits. I'm not interested to make bigger blades, and this what just push me the forward to make the better and better. But still, making karambits is very challenging for different reason.
So you had a bunch of Filipino martial arts guys saying, yes, these karambits are exactly what we want, essentially.
Right.
So what is it that you look for when you're designing your karambit? So smaller profile overall, but what else are you looking? What really makes your knives stand out?
First, probably like easy to conceal. Is probably one of the main things what I keep in mind when I make my karambits, because the karambits from centuries exist. That was probably like secondary weapon, not primary. So like in my things, it's like even if I carry karambits on me, no one's supposed to know it about this. And it's like a last resort, the weapon. So that is the main things. Make that in pretty small, compact, the size. So when you see my work and compare to some others, design, then you see the main things is just, the size. So I try to keep them pretty small. Other things is the curve of blade. Some makers, the designers, they grind pretty straight, the blade. I try make that pretty nice, the curve, which is very hard. But I spent a lot, time to learn that way, how I grind them. So in this point, grinding the curved blades is much easier for me than grind straight blades. So probably like conceal and nice curve.
So in terms of the nice curve, are you looking for something very aggressive and tight on that curve, or very loose, or what's kind of the happy medium for that?
It's, this like depends about like the application, right? But I prefer the more aggressive style, like talon style, the blades, and for just like slashing and ripping of kind of, the media. But the things is like of that blade is like this, like kind of like my signature. If I just grind, I wanna make sure that fit my like profile. So aggressive style, very pointy, and pretty short.
So in regards to being able to actually grind the curve, for any of the knife makers out there who have actually attempted to grind an inside bevel, that can be pretty difficult. Everybody has their own way of managing that. How do you go about getting the grind on the inside of that curve? It
is it's like pretty long story of that, right? Because when I start looking for at beginning some pro tips how grind them, I asked a lot, the guys who had kind of experience with the grind on the karambits, and they usually told me, "Oh, Greg, I did that once, and I don't want to touch that anymore." And asked why. You will see. Then I didn't, in that point, I didn't understand why, because in that point I just think, okay, the grinder is the grinder, the piece of the steel is the piece of the steel, so I can grind. But actually when I started, then I saw how difficult it is. So the main things what I had to change on my grinder, that was, the go up to 1 inch wide, the contact wheel. If I do hollow grind, it's much easier to grind on the more narrow wheel than, the like 2 inches, the standard. And then a lot practice. The practice and muscle memory. So from the beginning, I always did like 3, 4, 5 blades, the same style, to just adapt, like my muscle memory, to keep that, all those grinds pretty even. And in that point, I just figure out my own way how I can grind. I don't use any jigs. I'm not sure if there is anyone who can use the jigs for the grind, the karambits. I didn't see it, never that. So I use all grindings are freehands. More difficult, but this is the way I make it.
So one of the things that a lot of people think is kind of synonymous with karambits is the finger ring on the back end of the grip. I've seen that on a couple of your knives, but not a lot of your knives, if I remember correctly. Is there a particular reason why you don't add the finger ring in on as many of your knives like many other makers do?
So, the thing is with the rings, the Karambit is named after the curve of the blade, not after the ring. So a lot the knives what we see on the market right now, which they have the retention ring on the end, they call Karambit, which is not, right? So sometimes we see like straight blades with the ring on the handle, is like people call it that, Karambit. So in my opinion, you are able to grind like curved blade with the straight handle without the ring and still can be Karambit. So I just try make both of them, just with the rings and without.
Mm-hmm. So essentially whatever you're feeling in that particular day or whatever the customer has requested.
I usually work on my own ideas, and when the customer, they contact to me and sometimes request like custom work, I have to be sure the customer request also meets my intention to make this kind of, the Karambits. If the customer wants something what doesn't work for me, I'm not able to take this kind of order because I don't feel comfortable with that. So someday I just go to the shop and then just take the piece of the steel and just most of them I just like go to the grinder and start the shaping, and then depends about like how I feel that day. Sometimes I put that ring, sometimes not. Sometimes that the edge or the blade is more curved or less, but it's just the expression of that moment. Mm-hmm. When I just grind Karambit.
So it's the artistic aspect of things,
right.
Pretty much in that.
Yeah, so that this is for me very important. I had a lot, the request for Karambits with the long blades, 4, 5, 6 inches blade for the Karambits. I usually don't take this kind of orders because I don't feel good with that. I want to keep focus on the small ones. Customers sometimes don't understand why I don't want to make it. I don't have too much experience to grind longer, the blades. Maybe in some point I will make them, but up to today I keep focus on short ones.
Mm-hmm. One other thing that you will also encounter on a number of Karambits is a sharpened back edge on the back of the knife. Is that something that you like to do, or is that something you would try to avoid?
From my point as the maker, make the double edges, right? It's kind of like another challenging, right? So this is what I wanna try and wanna make it. Other things is like not all customers likes double edge or the law of the place where they live don't allow them to carry or use. So that is just like mid of the point. But most of my Karambits I grind, even if I don't make the sharp, the top edge, I make pretty thin, so if on the end customer wants that sharp edge, I'm able to make it. Mm-hmm. So with the false edge, I make that, the false edge on the end of my Karambits. So if it will be that necessary, put that edge on it, I will make it. But there was when I started, most of them, there was a single edge. Then I had, there's some backgrounds from bunch of, the CLAT, FMA enthusiasts. That was like, Greg, can you make with double edges? And they explained to me why that the second edge is such important for the Karambits, for technique, what they use, how they train. So that gives me another window to make this kind of Karambits. And at that point, most of my work, what I do, have this kind of, the second edge on it.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So in addition to making Karambits, you've also come out with a number of Picals type of blades. What has led you to kind of branch out and play with those a little bit?
They are pretty close, right? Pretty close. Like the petals what I do still has, that curve, the edge, more or less. But years ago, I took some seminars with the guys who prefer use petals as primary weapon. Then Keith Jennings from Chicago, he did with me first collaboration, the knife, what we called Chaiton. That was the reverse grips with the edge in, who Keith designed it. And that was my first reverse grip I ever made, I ever did. And there was at that point, I need a lot, the sources before I start that, to make that knife, what kind things I have to put in that knife to make sure, that knife will be cut and will work. And with that, the kit a lot, that helped me to understand how use it, how works this kind of blade. After I did, the couple of Chaitons, and people who was interested in it give us, some feedbacks about, all this kind of aspect of that knife, the grips, blades, the thickness of that blades, sheets, all this kind of stuff. So I back to the shop and I did another run of this when I put all this, the feedbacks, things what they gave me, and I did even better. So at that point, a lot, the customers just, they try order from me some petals. So then that looks like I did karambits and petals, like the same time. And at some point, I even had, the more requests for karambits than for the petals, for the karambits. At some point, I just, they figured out, okay, let me go even deeper. So like I said before, I just went for some seminars with the guys who work exclusively with petals, and that gave me, the understanding how that knife works. So for the last 2-3 years, I did big numbers of the petals, different style, different designs, and I think, this is the topic in my, life making, the career where I wanna go even deeper, because I see the potential for my designs over there.
So for people trying to find some of your work, where can they find your knives and get in contact with you in order to put in an order with you?
The easiest way is like go to my Facebook page, Karambit Maker, and the same on Instagram. There's the places where I usually post most of my work. So if there's someone is interested, go there, just, they send, some information to me, some message, I will answer back, and then we just, make that connection.
And we will have links to both of those in the description down below, so you can find Greg's work pretty easily. So, thank you for joining us,
Thank you
Greg.
so much.
It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Same. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching The Knife Life. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing, and go ahead and hit that little bell down in the bottom right corner. Consider looking at our Patreon page and getting access to some exclusive content. And until next time, stay safe and keep living the knife life.